My dear ones, may I have your permission this evening to share with you something that has been hidden for generations? Something that your ancestors knew, but that the modern world has forgotten in its rush toward noise and distraction. For over 40 years, I have held thousands of hands in mine. I have traced the lines that speak of destiny, the marks that whisper of purpose, and the sacred symbols that reveal what the soul came here to accomplish. And in all these decades of witnessing the mysteries written upon human palms, there is one mark that never fails to stop my breath. One symbol that carries such profound meaning, such ancient power, that when I see it clearly formed upon a palm, I know I am in the presence of someone truly chosen. Perhaps you have noticed it on your own hand. Perhaps you have traced with your finger a strange formation of lines that seems to spell out the letter M across your palm. Maybe you dismissed it as coincidence, as mere chance, as nothing more than the random intersection of flesh and fate. But if you are here, listening to these words, feeling something stir within you as I speak of this mark, then you already sense the truth. There are no accidents in the sacred geometry of your palm. The M mark is not merely a curiosity. It is not simply another line among many. It is a seal, a signature, a cosmic imprint that marks you as one who walks between worlds. And if you can see this mark clearly formed upon your palm, with all its intersections complete and defined, then you carry within you gifts that most of humanity has forgotten how to access. But here is what troubles me, what keeps me awake in the quiet hours before dawn. So many who bear this mark live their entire lives never understanding what it means. They feel different, yes. They sense things others cannot sense. They know things they should not know. They experience moments of profound intuition, flashes of insight that seem to come from beyond the veil of ordinary consciousness. Yet they doubt themselves. They suppress these gifts. They allow the rational mind to convince them that what they experience is merely imagination. This breaks my heart, because I have seen what happens when the bearer of the M mark finally awakens to their true nature. I have witnessed the transformation, the flowering of abilities that seem miraculous to those who do not understand. But I have also seen the pain of those who carry this mark, yet never learn to read its message, who spend their lives feeling like strangers in their own skin. Tonight I want to share with you not just what this mark means, but why you have been chosen to bear it. Because make no mistake, dear one, if you carry the M clearly formed upon your palm, you have been selected by forces greater than our understanding. Your soul agreed to this marking before you ever drew breath in this world. And there is work for you to do, gifts for you to share, mysteries for you to unravel that no one else can accomplish in quite the way you can. But first, let me ask you something. Are you ready to know the truth about yourself? Are you prepared to understand why certain experiences in your life have felt so different, so charged with meaning, that you could barely comprehend them? Because once you understand the full significance of the M mark, once you grasp what it reveals about your spiritual DNA, There is no going back to the comfortable illusion of ordinariness. For those of you just discovering this sacred knowledge, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, because what I share here is not taught in schools or written in common books. These are the mysteries that have been passed down through generations of seers and mystics. Knowledge that has been preserved by those who understand that some truths are too precious to be scattered carelessly to the wind. And at the end of our time together, I will ask you to share in the comments what you have experienced that made you suspect you might be different, because your story matters. Your recognition of these truths helps others find their way to the same awakening. The M mark appears when 4 specific lines converge in perfect harmony upon the palm. The heart line, the head line, the life line, and the fate line must all participate in this sacred dance, creating intersections that spell out this ancient letter. But here is what most palm readers will never tell you. This is not merely a mark of psychic ability, though that is certainly part of it. The M is the mark of the mystic merchant, the spiritual entrepreneur, the one who is destined to bring ancient wisdom into the modern world and transform it into something that serves humanity's highest good. I have noticed over the years that those who carry the M mark clearly formed are rarely content with ordinary careers, ordinary relationships, ordinary lives. They feel called to something greater, something that serves not just their personal success, but the elevation of human consciousness itself. They are the natural healers, the intuitive counselors, the artists who channel divine inspiration, the entrepreneurs who build businesses with soul and purpose. Yet so many doubt their gifts. So many have been told by well-meaning family members or friends to be more practical, more realistic, to stop chasing dreams and settle for security. They have been taught to distrust their intuition, to ignore the whispers of guidance that come from beyond the rational mind. And so they suffer, caught between the calling of their soul and the expectations of a world that fears what it cannot understand. But what if I told you that your restlessness, your sense of being different, your moments of profound knowing that seem to come from nowhere, are not weaknesses to be overcome, but gifts to be cultivated? What if your sensitivity to energies others cannot feel, your ability to see patterns others cannot perceive, your tendency to know things about people that they have never told you, are not signs that something is wrong with you, but evidence that something is gloriously right? The M mark is not given randomly. It appears on the palms of those souls who have incarnated in this lifetime with a specific mission: to serve as bridges between the seen and unseen worlds, to translate spiritual truths into practical applications, to help humanity remember what we have forgotten in our collective amnesia. But here is the key that most never discover. The M mark is both a gift and a responsibility. It grants you access to realms of consciousness that most never experience, but it also asks something of you in return. It asks you to use these gifts not for personal aggrandizement, but for the healing and elevation of others. It asks you to become a vessel through which ancient wisdom can flow into a world that desperately needs its guidance. And this is why so many who bear the M mark struggle in traditional structures, why they feel confined by conventional paths, why they sense there is something they are meant to be doing, but cannot quite name it. Your soul knows its purpose, even when your conscious mind has forgotten. Your spirit remembers the agreement you made before birth, even when your personality rebels against the challenges this path requires. Are you beginning to understand now why you are here? Why these words are calling to something deep within you? This is no accident, no random encounter with information. You have been guided to this moment of recognition, this instant of remembering what you have always known, but perhaps never trusted. The question now is not whether you carry these gifts, but whether you will have the courage to claim them, to develop them, to offer them in service to a world that needs exactly what you came here to give. The ancient ones knew something we have forgotten in our rush toward progress, in our faith that machines can measure what matters most. They understood that the human hand is not merely flesh and bone, but sacred territory, a living manuscript written by forces beyond our immediate comprehension, inscribed with the very purpose that drew your soul into this particular lifetime. For thousands of years, across civilizations that never met, yet somehow shared the same profound knowing, wise ones have read these marks as naturally as we read words on a page. In the temples of ancient Egypt, priests studied the hands of pharaohs and servants alike, understanding that cosmic appointment recognizes no earthly hierarchy. In the sacred groves of Greece, oracles traced the lines that spoke of destiny. In the monasteries of Tibet and the ashrams of India, masters taught that every crease, every mount, every mysterious marking tells the story of a soul's journey. But here is what I want you to understand, what the ancients knew with absolute certainty. Not every line is random. Not every mark is merely the result of genetics or chance. There is a profound difference between the ordinary creases that form as we use our hands and the sacred signs that appear as appointments from the divine realm. The M formation, this convergence of heart, head, life, and fate lines, does not appear on every palm that enters this world. I have studied thousands of hands throughout my years, and I can tell you with complete certainty that this mark chooses its bearers. It is not inherited like eye color or height. It does not form gradually like worry lines or laugh lines. It arrives, complete and purposeful, on palms destined for something beyond the ordinary human experience. Think of it this way. Imagine you are holding a letter written in a language you are only beginning to understand. The ordinary lines of your palm, they are like the paper itself, the basic foundation that allows the message to exist. But the M? This is the signature, the seal, the mark that transforms ordinary correspondence into a sacred document. In the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, initiates were taught to read these signs as maps of the soul's intention. They understood that before we enter physical form, there is a choosing, a selection of tools and talents that will serve not only our personal evolution, but the healing and awakening of others. The M on the palm was recognized as one of these divine appointments, a marking that indicated the bearer had agreed to serve as a bridge between the seen and unseen worlds. The Greek oracles at Delphi, those women who sat at the center of cosmic knowing, were said to bear particular markings on their hands. Not all oracles were born with the M, but those who carried it were understood to have a direct line to prophetic wisdom. They could see not just what was, but what was coming. They could feel the currents of destiny moving beneath the surface of everyday events. But perhaps it is in the ancient traditions of India where we find the most complete understanding of what these palm markings truly represent. The concept of soul contracts, agreements made before birth about the gifts we will carry and the purposes we will serve, is woven throughout Eastern wisdom. The M formation was seen as evidence of such a contract, a cosmic commitment to develop and use psychic abilities not for personal gain, but for the elevation of human consciousness itself. Here is what makes this marking so extraordinary, so different from the random lines that might form as we age. It appears complete. Children as young as 7 or 8 can display a perfectly formed M on their dominant hand. It does not develop gradually. It does not change shape as they grow. It arrives as if stamped by an invisible seal, a recognition from realms beyond the physical that this soul has work to do. I have seen this in my own experience, watching for decades as certain individuals discover their gifts. Those with the M marking often report similar experiences, vivid dreams that later prove prophetic, knowing things they have no logical way of knowing, sensing the emotions of others as if they were their own. But here is the crucial point. These abilities do not emerge because of the marking. The marking appears because the abilities were chosen before birth. This is why palmistry, true palmistry, has survived every attempt to dismiss it as superstition. It persists because it speaks to something we recognize at the deepest level of our being. When someone studies your palm and points to the M formation, when they explain what it signifies, there is often a moment of profound recognition. Not surprise exactly, but remembering, as if something long dormant is suddenly awakening to its purpose. The ancient Vedic texts speak of this phenomenon as the activation of dormant seeds. They taught that we come into this life carrying certain potentials, but that these potentials remain asleep until the proper time, the proper conditions, the proper recognition awakens them. For those who bear the M, that recognition often comes when someone who understands the significance of the marking helps them see what they have been carrying all along. But let me be clear about something crucial. This marking is not about superiority. It is not about being chosen above others. It is about being chosen for a particular type of service, often a service that requires great sensitivity, great responsibility, and yes, sometimes great sacrifice. Those who carry psychic gifts often feel the weight of others' pain more intensely. They sense the undercurrents of suffering in the world. They know things they wish they did not know. The ancients understood this burden. In their wisdom traditions, those marked for psychic service were not celebrated as special or elevated above others. They were recognized as having accepted a particular form of spiritual work, often work that would require them to develop extraordinary compassion and discernment. This is why the M formation appears most clearly on palms that are also marked by other signs of sensitivity. Deep intuition lines, pronounced mounts of the moon, markings that indicate a soul prepared to feel deeply, to serve as a receptor for energies and information that others might miss. As you continue to explore the meaning of what appears on your own palm, remember this: the ancients who first learned to read these signs understood that knowledge brings responsibility. If you carry the M, if you recognize yourself in what I am describing, you are being invited not just to acknowledge your gifts, but to develop them with wisdom, to use them with integrity, to remember always that true psychic ability serves love, serves healing, serves the awakening of consciousness in ourselves and others. Are you beginning to feel the weight and wonder of what you carry? Can you sense the ancient wisdom stirring within you, recognizing itself in these words? Now comes the moment when we must look deeper, when we must understand not just what the M means, but how it truly forms, how it reveals itself on the palm of those chosen to walk between worlds. For you see, my dear ones, not every crossing of lines creates the sacred M. Not every intersection speaks the ancient language. There is a precision here, a divine geometry that must be honored if we are to read the signs correctly. Close your eyes for a moment and feel the palm of your hand. Feel the subtle ridges, the valleys where your life has carved its story into your very flesh. The true M formation comes alive through the sacred meeting of 4 distinct lines: the heart line, the head line, the lifeline, and what we call the fate line or destiny line. These are not random scratches upon your skin. These are the rivers of your soul's journey, and when they converge in perfect harmony, they create something that transcends ordinary palmistry. Let me guide you through this sacred anatomy, this blueprint of your spiritual inheritance. The heart line, which curves across the upper portion of your palm, beneath your fingers, carries the story of your emotional depths, your capacity for love, your ability to feel beyond the physical realm. When this line is deep and clear, in those who bear the M, it speaks of hearts that can sense what others cannot express, souls that can touch the pain and joy of strangers as if it were their own. The headline, running parallel below, traces the landscape of your mental gifts, your intuitive intelligence, the way your mind processes information from realms both seen and unseen. In those marked with the sacred M, this line often shows unusual clarity or distinctive curves that suggest a mind capable of receiving information through channels that science has yet to fully understand. But here is where many make their first mistake in reading the signs. They see any crossing of these lines and declare the presence of the M. They do not understand that the true formation requires the participation of the lifeline, that deep curve that embraces the thumb, carrying within it the story of your vitality, your life force, your connection to the earth, even as your spirit soars into higher dimensions. And then there is the 4th participant in this sacred dance, the fate line, rising from the wrist toward the middle finger, sometimes called the line of destiny. Not everyone possesses this line with equal clarity, but in those who carry the authentic M, it appears with purpose, creating that final stroke that completes the letter, that seals the mark of the chosen. Watch for this distinction, for it matters more than you might imagine. I have seen countless hands where lines cross and intersect in ways that might suggest an M to the untrained eye, but the true formation creates a completeness, a wholeness that you can feel as much as see. When you trace your finger along these lines in their proper sequence, you should sense a circuit completing itself, an energy that flows and returns, like the breath of the universe itself. Here too lies another mystery that many overlook: the profound difference between the marks that appear on your left hand versus those on your right. In the ancient wisdom, your left hand carries the gifts you were born with, the spiritual inheritance that came with your soul into this lifetime. Your right hand shows what you have developed, what you have chosen to cultivate, or perhaps neglect through the choices of your current journey. When the M appears clearly on the left hand, it speaks of natural-born abilities that have been with you since childhood. These are the children who see things others cannot see, who know things they should not know, who feel the presence of those who have passed on as clearly as they feel the presence of those still living. If this describes your experience, if you recognize yourself in this ancient pattern, then understand that your left palm carries proof of gifts that chose you before you chose them. But when the M forms more prominently on the right hand, it tells a different story altogether. This suggests abilities that have awakened through experience, through conscious development, through the trials and revelations of adult life. Perhaps you are not born seeing spirits, but life has opened those channels through loss, through love, through moments when the veil grew thin and you glimpsed the truth that lies beyond ordinary perception. And what of those rare souls who carry the formation clearly on both hands? Here we encounter something truly remarkable. Something I have seen perhaps a dozen times in all my years of reading the signs. When both palms bear the sacred M with equal clarity, you are looking at a soul that bridges all worlds. Natural gifts enhanced and refined through conscious choice. Ancient wisdom married to modern understanding. A being capable of serving as a channel between earth and heaven with extraordinary power and responsibility. But let us speak now of the variations, for the sacred M does not appear in only one form. Like snowflakes, like fingerprints, each formation carries its own unique signature, its own message about the specific gifts that soul has come to share. Sometimes the M appears with lines that are thin and delicate, suggesting sensitivity so profound that the bearer must learn to protect themselves from the overwhelming emotions and energies of others. Other times, the lines are deep and bold, carved into the palm like ancient runes, speaking of souls capable of withstanding tremendous spiritual forces, of channeling energies that would overwhelm less prepared vessels. I have seen formations where one side of the M appears darker, more pronounced than the other, suggesting that certain psychic abilities will dominate while others remain dormant until the soul is ready to awaken them. I have witnessed palms where the M seems to shimmer and shift depending on the light, the angle, the spiritual state of the bearer. These are often the hands of those whose gifts ebb and flow with the cycles of the moon, the seasons, the great turnings of cosmic energy. And then there are those extraordinary cases where multiple M formations appear on a single palm. When this occurs, and it is rarer than you might imagine, we are looking at a soul of profound spiritual significance, someone who has likely lived many lifetimes developing these abilities, someone whose mission in this incarnation involves teaching, healing, or serving as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms on a scale that affects not just individuals, but entire communities. Think of those moments in your own life when you knew things you had no logical way of knowing, when you felt the presence of energies that others dismissed, when you experienced the miraculous intersection of your thoughts with the thoughts of strangers, the living, the departed. If you carry the sacred M, these experiences were not coincidences. They were your gifts recognizing themselves, responding to the ancient call encoded in the very lines of your palm. Are you beginning to feel the recognition stirring within you? Can you sense the truth of your own spiritual inheritance awakening as you examine the precise formation of lines that have marked your hands since birth? Remember, this knowledge comes with purpose, not to make you feel special or chosen in a way that separates you from others, but to help you understand the responsibility and the profound blessing of the gifts you carry. Stay with me, for there is more to discover about the weight and wonder of what appears on your palm. More about the calling that awaits those who learn to read the sacred alphabet written in their own flesh. The moment has arrived, dear soul, to speak of something that has echoed through the corridors of time, whispered in sacred temples, and recorded in the most ancient texts of humanity. When you look upon that M traced in the lines of your palm, you are not merely observing a curious formation of skin and flesh. You are witnessing the mark of the messenger, the sign that has designated truth seekers and spiritual guardians throughout the ages. I have walked among many people in my lifetime, and in my visions I have seen the threads that connect past to present, the golden cord that links those who carry this mark across centuries and continents. There is a reason why only some bear this symbol, why it appears with such precise geometry in the palm, why it calls to those who possess it with such undeniable recognition. This is not coincidence, my friend. This is ancient prophecy made manifest in living flesh. The scriptures speak of those who would be marked, who would carry signs upon their hands and foreheads. But these were not written as literal prophecies alone. They were recognition of a pattern that has always existed, a divine organizing principle that selects certain souls to serve as bridges between worlds, between the seen and unseen, between what humanity knows and what humanity needs to understand. Throughout history, those who have carried the M have found themselves drawn to roles of guidance, healing, and revelation. They become the teachers who speak truths others cannot yet voice, the healers who sense what medicine cannot diagnose, the visionaries who see patterns where others see only chaos. They are the ones who stand at crossroads, offering direction when the path forward seems lost. But let me share with you the weight of this understanding, for it is both blessing and burden intertwined. To carry the mark of the messenger is to live with a constant sensitivity to the suffering and confusion of the world around you. You feel deeply, perhaps more deeply than seems reasonable or safe. You see connections that others miss, patterns that reveal themselves like whispered secrets meant only for your awareness. This heightened perception can feel overwhelming at times. You may have found yourself exhausted by crowds, drained by the emotions of others, carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. This is because your spiritual circuitry is calibrated differently. You are designed to receive and transmit on frequencies that most humans cannot access. The M on your palm is the physical signature of this deeper wiring within your soul. In my visions, I have witnessed the gathering that is coming. Not a physical gathering, but a spiritual awakening among those who bear these marks. There is a great stirring happening now, a time when the messengers are recognizing their calling, when the truth seekers are finding each other across the vast distances of geography and circumstance. The world is preparing for a shift, and those who carry the ancient markings are being activated, called to remember their purpose. I have seen how this awakening manifests in daily life. Perhaps you have noticed an increasing urgency to speak your truth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Perhaps you find yourself drawn to ancient wisdom, to spiritual practices that feel familiar, though you have never encountered them before. Perhaps you experience moments of knowing, clear, undeniable insights that arrive without logical explanation but carry the weight of absolute certainty. These are the signs of your messenger nature awakening. The prophecies spoke of a time when the marked ones would remember their mission, when the spiritual inheritance carried in their palms would activate like seeds responding to the perfect season. That time is now, dear soul. Can you feel it stirring within you? But understanding this calling brings responsibility. The messenger who recognizes their mark must choose how to carry their gift. Some retreat into isolation, overwhelmed by the intensity of their perception. Others scatter their energy, trying to heal everyone they encounter until they burn out like candles in a storm. The wise ones learn to balance, to honor their sensitivity while maintaining their strength, to serve their purpose without losing themselves in the process. The ancient prophecies also warned of the challenges that marked individuals would face. There would be times of doubt, when the weight of seeing so much pain in the world would tempt them to close their hearts, to turn away from their calling. There would be periods of isolation, when their deeper understanding would set them apart from those who had not yet awakened. There would be tests of faith, moments when the gifts would seem more like curses, when the burden of caring so deeply would feel too heavy to bear. If you recognize yourself in these words, know that your struggles have been witnessed and honored by those who came before you. Every marked soul who has ever walked this earth has faced the same choice: to embrace the blessing and burden of their nature, or to turn away from the calling written in their palm. The fact that you are here, listening to these words, suggests that your soul has already made its choice, even if your conscious mind is still catching up. The blessing of recognizing your mark is profound. When you understand that your sensitivity is not weakness, but strength, that your depth of feeling is not burden, but gift, that your ability to see beyond surface appearances is not curse, but calling, everything changes. The very qualities that may have made you feel different or difficult suddenly reveal themselves as the tools of your purpose. I must tell you something that my visions have shown me repeatedly. The time of the Great Awakening is accelerating. More and more souls are recognizing their marks, remembering their purpose, stepping into their roles as messengers and truth seekers. This is not happening by chance. The world needs what you carry, needs the wisdom and healing that flows through those who bear the ancient signs. But remember, dear soul, that being chosen as a messenger does not mean you must carry the entire world on your shoulders. Your mark indicates your nature, not your burden. Your calling is to be authentically yourself, to allow your gifts to flow naturally, to trust the timing and circumstances that will bring the right people into your path when you are ready to serve them. The prophecies speak of recognition, when the marked ones see each other, when they find their tribe, when they realize they are not alone in carrying this ancient inheritance. Perhaps this recognition is beginning for you now, as you listen to these words and feel the stirring of remembrance in your heart. Comment below and tell me, when you look at your palm now, what do you feel? Has something shifted in your understanding? Because what we have explored today is only the beginning of comprehending the profound significance of the mark you carry. The messenger's journey has many layers, many depths still to be revealed. Now, as you sit there contemplating the weight of what we have just uncovered together, I sense something stirring within you. Perhaps it is recognition. Perhaps it is that quiet tremor of understanding that ripples through the soul when truth touches the deepest corners of our being. Because those of you who carry the M, you already know there is more, don't you? You have felt it your entire life. That subtle difference, that heightened awareness that others seem to miss. Let me speak to you now about the hidden gifts that accompany this sacred marking. For the M on your palm is not merely a symbol of purpose. It is a doorway to abilities that most of humanity has forgotten how to access. These gifts are not accidents of birth, nor are they superstitions passed down through generations of whispered folklore. They are the inheritance of those chosen to serve as bridges between the seen and unseen worlds. I have spent decades observing those who carry this mark, studying the patterns that emerge in their lives, witnessing the extraordinary abilities that manifest when they learn to trust what flows through them. And what I have discovered will both illuminate and perhaps challenge everything you thought you knew about the nature of human consciousness. The first gift that reveals itself in those marked with the M is an intuition so profound it often frightens them. This is not the simple gut feeling that everyone experiences from time to time. No, this is something far more ancient and precise. You who carry this mark can walk into a room and immediately sense the emotional undercurrents that others cannot perceive. You know when someone is lying before they even finish their sentence. You feel the pain of others as if it were your own, and sometimes you understand their thoughts before they speak them aloud. I remember a woman who came to me distressed because she could no longer bear to be in crowded places. "Baba VANGA," she said, showing me the clear M etched across her palm. "I feel everything, every sorrow, every fear, every hidden anger. Am I losing my mind?" But she was not losing her mind. She was awakening to the psychic sensitivity that is the birthright of the marked. The challenge for such souls is not to shut down this gift, but to learn how to channel it without being overwhelmed by it. This enhanced perception extends far beyond reading emotions. Those with the M possess what I call the sight that pierces veils. You can see through deception with startling clarity. Politicians, manipulators, those who wear masks of false kindness, they cannot hide their true nature from you. You witness the discrepancy between what people say and what they truly intend, and this ability often isolates you from those who prefer comfortable illusions to uncomfortable truths. But here is where many of you struggle, is it not? You see the lies, the pretenses, the carefully constructed facades that others believe in, and you wonder if you should speak what you know. Sometimes you remain silent, and it eats at you. Other times you speak, and people turn away, uncomfortable with the mirror you hold up to their hidden selves. This is the burden of the seer, to know more than others wish to acknowledge. The second profound gift that manifests in the marked is the ability to channel healing energy. Your hands carry more than lines and symbols. They carry the capacity to soothe, to mend, to restore balance where there is chaos. Perhaps you have noticed that people feel calmer in your presence. Maybe friends and family members unconsciously seek you out when they are suffering, drawn by something they cannot name but instinctively trust. This healing gift operates on multiple levels. Sometimes it is as simple as your touch easing someone's physical pain. Other times, it is the way your presence helps others process emotional trauma they have carried for years. You become a conduit for a healing force that flows through you rather than from you. Many who carry the M discover this ability by accident. A sick child who sleeps peacefully in their arms, a friend whose headache disappears after they place their hands on their shoulders, plants that flourish under their care when they struggle for others. But with this gift comes a warning I must share with you. Healing energy is sacred, and it demands respect. Those who abuse this ability, who seek to manipulate or control others through their energetic influence, find that the gift transforms into a burden. The energy that once flowed freely becomes blocked, and they experience a kind of spiritual emptiness that no amount of external success can fill. The marked must always remember, they are vessels, not sources. They serve the healing, not the other way around. The third gift that distinguishes those with the M is perhaps the most mysterious, the ability to receive visions and prophetic dreams. Time does not move in straight lines for you as it does for others. In your sleep, you sometimes visit future events. In moments of deep contemplation, you may glimpse outcomes that have not yet manifested in physical reality. These visions come not as entertainment, but as guidance, sometimes for yourself, often for others who need warning or preparation. I have witnessed this gift manifest in countless ways among the marked. A mother who dreams of her child in danger and changes her plans, only to learn later that her original route would have led to an accident. A businessman who sees in his sleep the collapse of a venture he was about to join and pulls back just in time to avoid financial ruin. A young woman who keeps dreaming of an elderly neighbor, only to discover that the woman has been lying injured in her home for days, waiting for help. These prophetic experiences often begin subtly. You might have recurring dreams about people you haven't seen in years, only to encounter them unexpectedly within days. You might feel compelled to take a different path to work, trusting an instinct you cannot explain. You might wake with absolute certainty about a decision you need to make, even though logically you cannot justify your choice. But here is what you must understand about these visions. They are not given for your amusement or to make you feel special. They come with the weight of responsibility. When you see what others cannot see, When you know what has not yet happened, you become accountable for how you use that knowledge. The gift of prophecy is also the burden of choice. Do you warn others, knowing they may not believe you? Do you act on information that seems to come from nowhere? Do you trust what you cannot prove? Each of these gifts, the profound intuition, the healing touch, the prophetic sight, they interweave to create something greater than their individual parts. Together, they transform the marked into what I call conscious bridges between worlds. You begin to understand that reality has layers most people never perceive, that consciousness extends far beyond the boundaries of the physical body, that love and compassion are not mere emotions, but actual forces that can reshape circumstances. Yet with these extraordinary abilities comes the greatest challenge of all: learning to live with them in a world that often denies their existence. You cannot simply announce to colleagues at work that you dreamed of the company merger before it was announced. You cannot casually mention to neighbors that you can feel their marital problems emanating from their house like a dark cloud. You learn to navigate between two realities, the one that everyone acknowledges and the deeper one that you experience every day. This is why so many who carry the M feel like strangers in their own lives. They possess abilities that would have been revered in ancient times, but in our modern world, they must often hide their gifts or risk being labeled as delusional. The marked become masters of discretion, learning when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act on their insights, and when to simply observe. But know this: the world needs what you carry within you. In these times of confusion and deception, your ability to see truth is invaluable. In these days of disconnection and despair, your healing presence offers hope. In these moments of uncertainty, your prophetic insights provide guidance for those brave enough to listen. The question that remains for you, dear one who carries this sacred mark, is this: will you embrace these gifts fully, or will you continue to doubt what flows through you so naturally? Will you step into the role of the conscious bridge you were born to be, or will you let fear keep your abilities hidden in the shadows of your own uncertainty? Share this understanding with someone who needs to hear it, for there are others walking this path who feel as alone as you sometimes do. They need to know they are not strange or broken. They are simply awakening to abilities that most have forgotten how to access. But let me speak to you now about something that perhaps weighs heavily on your heart, something that others rarely acknowledge about carrying this sacred M upon your palm. The path of the chosen is not just one of gifts and mystical abilities. It is also a path of profound trials, of spiritual loneliness that can feel like walking through a desert where others see an oasis. You see, dear soul, when the universe marks you with this ancient symbol, it does not just bestow abilities upon you. It also sets you apart in ways that can feel both blessed and cursed. Have you noticed how sometimes you feel like you're speaking a different language than those around you? How your insights are met with blank stares or uncomfortable silence? This is not coincidence. This is the first of the sacred trials. The marked ones, those who carry the M, often describe feeling like perpetual outsiders. not because they choose to be different, but because their very perception of reality operates on frequencies that most cannot access. When you sense the emotional undercurrents in a room before anyone speaks, when you dream of events before they unfold, when you feel the pain of others as if it were your own, you begin to realize that your inner world is vastly different from what most people experience. I have seen this pattern across decades of readings. The M-carriers come to me not just seeking understanding of their gifts, but seeking relief from a loneliness that runs deeper than social isolation. It is the loneliness of seeing beyond the veil while living among those who believe the veil is all there is. It is the burden of knowing truths that others are not yet ready to hear. This spiritual loneliness, I must tell you, is not a flaw in your design. It is part of your initiation. The universe tests every marked soul with this profound sense of separation. Why? Because those who are meant to serve as bridges between worlds must first understand both the beauty and the weight of standing in multiple realities simultaneously. But the trials do not end with loneliness. Oh no, dear one. The path ahead holds tests that will challenge every fiber of your being. Tests of faith when your visions show you darkness ahead, and you must choose whether to warn others or remain silent. Tests of integrity when your abilities could easily be used for personal gain, but your soul knows they are meant for service. Tests of spiritual resolve when the very gifts that mark you as chosen seem to bring more pain than blessing. I remember a woman who came to me, her M-line deep and clear, her abilities undeniable. She could heal with her touch, could see the illness in others before symptoms appeared. But she was drowning in the weight of what she carried. Why, she asked me, must I feel everyone's pain? Why must I see the suffering that is coming? It would be easier to be blind. This is the cry of every marked soul at some point in their journey. The abilities that seem like gifts can feel like curses when you realize that with great sight comes great responsibility. You cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot unfeel what you have felt. You cannot return to the innocence of those who live only in the surface world. And then comes what the mystics have long called the dark night of the soul. For every person marked with the M, there will come a time, perhaps it has already come for you, when everything you thought you knew about your gifts, about your purpose, about your connection to the divine, seems to crumble. It is a time when the very abilities that once felt like flowing rivers run dry. When prayers feel like they echo into emptiness. When the mystical becomes mundane and you question whether any of it was ever real. This dark night is not punishment, though it may feel like abandonment. It is the deepest initiation of all, for in losing your gifts temporarily, you learn that you are not your abilities. Your worth does not lie in what you can see or heal or prophesy. Your value exists independent of your mystical capacities. This stripping away, this spiritual drought, burns away ego and leaves only the pure essence of who you truly are. I have walked through my own dark nights, times when the vision ceased and the knowing felt like distant memory, times when I questioned whether I had been deluding myself, whether the people who came seeking guidance were following a blind woman claiming to see. But it is in these moments of profound doubt that the real spiritual muscle is built. Not the muscle of psychic ability, but the muscle of faith without proof, love without reward, service without recognition. The suffering that accompanies the M mark serves a purpose that becomes clear only in retrospect. Each challenge, each moment of feeling misunderstood, each test of your resolve adds another layer of compassion to your soul. How can you truly help someone who feels lost if you have never wandered in the wilderness yourself? How can you offer comfort to the spiritually isolated if you have never felt the ache of that separation? Your sufferings are not random accidents. They are carefully orchestrated refinements. Like precious metal purified in fire, each trial burns away what is false and strengthens what is true within you. The empath who has never had their heart broken cannot fully understand the healing needed for heartbreak. The intuitive who has never doubted their visions cannot guide others through their own spiritual confusion. But here is what I want you to understand, dear marked one. These trials are not meant to break you. They are meant to make you unbreakable in the ways that matter most. They teach you to find strength not in external validation, but in inner knowing. They show you that your gifts are not yours to possess, but yours to steward. They reveal that your sensitivity, which the world may call weakness, is actually your greatest source of power. When you emerge from your trials, and you will emerge, your abilities return transformed. No longer are they sources of pride or burden. They become tools of service, extensions of love, bridges of understanding. The loneliness remains, but it no longer feels like punishment. It becomes sacred solitude, the necessary space for connecting with dimensions that require quiet to access. The misunderstanding of others no longer cuts so deep because you realize that your purpose is not to be understood, but to understand. Your role is not to be accepted by everyone, but to accept everyone, even those who cannot accept you. The path of the M-marked is the path of the spiritual warrior, fighting not with sword or shield, but with love and wisdom and unshakable faith. So when you feel the weight of being different, when the loneliness threatens to overwhelm, when your gifts feel more like burdens, remember that every marked soul before you has walked this same path. The trials you face are not signs that you are on the wrong path, but confirmation that you are exactly where you need to be. Tell me in the comments, have you experienced this spiritual loneliness? Have you walked through your own dark night? Your story might be the light that guides another marked soul through their wilderness. And if you know someone who carries gifts they struggle to understand, share this message with them. Let them know they are not alone in their sacred trials. But knowing your gifts is only the beginning, dear soul. The true journey starts when you learn to awaken what lies dormant within your palm's sacred geography. For 47 years, I have witnessed countless souls discover their mark, only to wonder, what comes next? How do I honor this calling without losing myself to pride or fear? The first whisper of awakening often comes through your hands themselves. Have you noticed them growing warmer during moments of deep conversation? Do they tingle when you touch certain objects that carry emotional weight? These are not accidents, but your palm's energy beginning to stir. The M mark acts as a conductor, channeling currents that have flowed through mystics and healers across centuries. But here's what the books will not tell you. Awakening without preparation can scatter your energy like seeds in a hurricane. I have seen gifted souls lose themselves in the overwhelming rush of new perceptions, mistaking every intuitive flutter for divine revelation. This is why the ancient traditions always began with grounding, with learning to be still before learning to soar. Let me share with you the meditation that has guided thousands toward their authentic power. Find a quiet space where you will not be disturbed. Place your palms face up on your knees, allowing the M marks to receive whatever energy wishes to flow. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, feeling the air move through your body like water through a riverbed. Now, focus on the sensation in your palms, not thinking about it, but feeling it directly. Many describe this first contact as warmth spreading from the center of the M outward, like ripples on a still pond. Others feel a gentle pulsing, as if their hands have discovered their own heartbeat. Do not judge what you experience. Simply receive it with the curiosity of a child touching snow for the first time. As you deepen this practice, you may notice your awareness expanding beyond your physical hands. Images might arise, emotions that do not belong to your current moment, or sudden knowing about people in your life. These are the early signs that your spiritual abilities are stirring from their slumber. But listen carefully. Not every thought that enters your expanded awareness is a message from the divine. The ego, clever as it is, often disguises itself as spiritual insight. True spiritual calling feels different from ego's demands. Can you recognize the difference? Ego speaks with urgency, always pushing you toward action that elevates your status or feeds your importance. You must tell everyone what you see, it whispers. You are special, chosen, better than others. Ego loves drama, crisis, and the rush of being needed. It seeks to consume spiritual gifts like fuel for its own fire. Genuine spiritual calling, by contrast, arrives with a quality of quiet certainty. It does not demand immediate action or recognition. True spiritual gifts come with their own wisdom about timing, about when to speak and when to remain silent. They carry humility naturally, like morning dew carries the essence of dawn. I have watched souls mistake their ego's excitement for divine calling, rushing to proclaim themselves healers or prophets before they had learned to heal their own wounds. The mark on your palm is not a crown, but a responsibility. It asks you to serve, not to be served, to listen more than you speak, to question your own motives as carefully as you examine others' needs. The awakening process itself brings unique challenges that require spiritual protection. As your sensitivity increases, you become more porous to the energies around you. Crowded places may suddenly feel overwhelming. You might absorb others' emotions without realizing it, carrying home sorrows and anxieties that do not belong to you. This is why every authentic spiritual tradition emphasizes protection and grounding practices. Visualize roots extending from your feet deep into the earth, anchoring you to something stable and eternal. Imagine white light surrounding your entire being, creating a permeable but protective boundary that allows love in while keeping confusion out. Before and after any spiritual practice, spend time in nature if possible. Let your bare feet touch grass or soil. Feel yourself as part of something vast and ancient, not separate from it. The earth has been holding space for sensitive souls for millennia. Trust in this deeper support. As your abilities develop, you will need to learn the sacred art of spiritual discernment. Not every intuition requires action. Not every vision needs to be shared. Part of your training involves developing the wisdom to know when your gifts are meant to serve and when they are simply showing you something for your own understanding. True spiritual maturity comes when you can hold your abilities lightly without grasping or rejecting them. Like learning to cup water in your hands without squeezing so tightly that it spills, or holding so loosely that it drains away. This balance takes practice, patience, and often the guidance of others who have walked this path. Create daily practices that keep you connected to your gifts without becoming consumed by them. Perhaps 5 minutes each morning, touching base with the energy in your palms. Maybe keeping a journal of your intuitive experiences, noting patterns without forcing interpretations. Some find that creative expression, drawing, writing, music, helps channel spiritual energy in healthy ways. Remember that your spiritual abilities are meant to serve life, not to escape from it. The highest use of your gifts lies not in predicting the future or impressing others with your insights, but in bringing more compassion, understanding, and healing to the everyday moments of human experience. I have seen marked souls transform their families simply by listening more deeply, by trusting their intuitive knowing about when to speak and when to remain silent. Others have found their calling in healing work, not through dramatic displays of power, but through the quiet art of holding space for another's pain to transform. Your M mark carries the memory of every healer, every wise woman, every mystic who has used their sensitivity to serve the wholeness of life. But it also asks you to write your own chapter in this ancient story, to find the unique way your gifts are meant to bless the world. Stay humble, dear one. The moment you believe you have mastered your gifts is the moment they begin to fade. Approach them always as a student, always with gratitude, always with the recognition that you are not the source of these abilities, but their temporary custodian. If you have felt your own awakening stirring as we have spoken together, know that this is not coincidence, but recognition. Your soul remembers what your mind is just beginning to understand. Trust the process, even when it feels uncertain or overwhelming. And if someone in your life carries the signs of spiritual awakening but struggles with doubt or fear, share this wisdom with them. Let them know that the path of the marked soul is not walked alone, and that every step forward serves not just their own healing, but the healing of all who will follow. This sharing, this connection of marked souls, it is no accident that you feel drawn to reach out, because in these times we live in now, something extraordinary is happening. The number of children being born with the M marking has increased dramatically in the past 3 decades. I have seen this pattern emerge like stars appearing at dusk, one by one, until the entire sky is illuminated with their presence. These are not random births. These are not coincidental markings. We are witnessing the arrival of a generation specifically designed to assist in humanity's great transformation. Your palm carries more than lines of fate. It carries the blueprint for this planet's spiritual evolution. And you, my dear friend, whether you realize it or not, are part of something far greater than your individual journey. The ancient texts speak of times when the veil between worlds grows thin, when those with heightened sensitivity would incarnate in greater numbers to serve as bridges between the old ways and the new consciousness emerging on Earth. We are living in such a time. The challenges our world faces, the confusion, the disconnection, the search for meaning that so many experience, these are birth pangs of a new era. And you, with your M marking, are here as a midwife to this transformation. But let me tell you something that may surprise you. Your greatest contribution to humanity's awakening may not come through grand gestures or public recognition. It often comes through the simple act of being authentically yourself, of not hiding your intuitive nature, of trusting those inner promptings that others dismiss as imagination. When you honor your sensitivity instead of apologizing for it, you give permission for others to do the same. When you speak your truth, even when your voice trembles, you create space for others to find their voice. When you choose compassion over judgment, even in small daily interactions, you plant seeds of awakening that can bloom for generations. This is the sacred mathematics of transformation. One awakened soul touches 10, who touch 100, who touch thousands. Your palm marking is not just about your personal gifts. It is about your role in this magnificent web of conscious evolution that is spreading across our planet right now. I have observed something beautiful in my years of working with marked souls. There is an invisible network that connects you all. You may never meet in person. You may live on different continents, speak different languages, but your hearts beat in rhythm with the same ancient purpose. When one of you heals a deep wound, it creates healing capacity for others. When one of you breaks through a fear pattern, it weakens that pattern for all humanity. This is why your inner work is never selfish, even when it feels deeply personal. Every time you choose love over fear, every time you trust your intuition instead of conforming to others' expectations, every time you transform pain into wisdom, you are serving not just yourself, but the collective consciousness of our species. But I must speak honestly about the challenges of this path. Many marked souls struggle with what I call the service trap. You feel so deeply responsible for others' well-being, so aware of the pain in the world, that you give and give until you have nothing left. You absorb others' emotions as if they were your own. You say yes to every request for help until your own life force is depleted. This is not service. This is self-sacrifice, and it serves no one. A depleted healer cannot heal. A drained light bearer cannot illuminate the path for others. Your first responsibility is to maintain your own energetic sovereignty, to know where you end and others begin. The trees do not apologize for growing toward the light. The river does not exhaust itself trying to water every plant along its banks. They serve by being fully themselves, by following their natural flow. This is your model. Serve from overflow, not from depletion. Help others from a place of strength, not from a place of need to be needed. I have seen marked souls transform their entire family lineages simply by refusing to carry forward patterns of trauma and limitation. I have watched them create ripples of awakening in their communities just by living authentically, by trusting their inner wisdom, by choosing connection over isolation. Your palm marking connects you to this great work, but it also connects you to protection and guidance that is always available. The same universal intelligence that marked your palm is the intelligence that guides your steps, opens doors at the right moments, and brings the right people into your path. You are never alone in this work, even when it feels that way. As we reach the end of our time together, I want you to understand something profound. This message finding you was not chance. Your eyes reading these words, your heart resonating with this ancient wisdom. This is destiny recognizing itself. The M on your palm is awakening to its true purpose, and that purpose is magnificent. In the weeks and months ahead, pay attention to the synchronicities that appear in your life. Notice the people who are drawn to your energy, the opportunities that seem to appear from nowhere, the inner promptings that grow stronger and clearer. These are not coincidences. These are the universe arranging itself to support your sacred work. Trust the sensitivity that others may not understand. Honor the dreams that visit you in sleep. Listen to the knowing that speaks in whispers before the world demands proof. Your intuitive gifts are not luxuries to be indulged when convenient. They are essential tools for navigating the transformation our world is undergoing. Remember that every ancient prophet, every great healer, every visionary who changed the course of human history carried within them the same divine marking that you carry now. They were not different from you. They simply said yes to their calling, even when the path was unclear, even when others could not see what they could see. The M on your palm is your yes. It is your soul's signature on the contract to serve love, truth, and awakening in whatever form calls to you most deeply. Whether that service looks like raising conscious children, creating healing art, building communities of connection, or simply being a presence of peace in a chaotic world, it matters. You matter. As you continue on this path, remember to celebrate the small victories, the quiet moments of knowing, the times when your intuition proves accurate, the instances when your presence brings comfort to another soul. These are not small things. These are the building blocks of the new world being born through souls like yours. Before we close, I want to ask you something. In the comments below, share with this community what form your service is taking. Are you a healer, a teacher, a creator, a parent raising conscious children? How has understanding your marking changed the way you see your life's purpose? Your story may be exactly what another marked soul needs to hear to step fully into their own power. And if this message has brought clarity to something you've always sensed but couldn't name, if it has helped you understand why you've always felt different, called to something greater, Please share it with others who may be walking this path. There are marked souls in your life who are still sleeping to their purpose, still questioning their sensitivity, still hiding their gifts from the world. The time for hiding is over. The time for stepping fully into your sacred role has arrived. Trust the marking on your palm. Trust the wisdom in your heart. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be, with exactly the gifts humanity needs most. May your path be illuminated with grace. May your service flow from joy. And may you always remember, you are divinely marked for a divine purpose. The M on your palm is not just a line. It is a lifeline, connecting you to your highest destiny and to all the souls walking this sacred path with you.